Got a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe 4 here. Must be relatively recent production. Now, every time in the past I've put up a video about a Hot Rod Deluxe, it's been the previous version, and someone's always said, oh, no, they fixed all those problems on the 4. So we'll see about that. This knob is cracked. I'll get them a replacement on that. That's a $1.20 thing. It says amp lights out. It's just standard little number 47 bulb. Reverb crackles, go over amp. All right. Now, I'm going to remove this last screw on this rear panel. And this panel is going to come out without any issues. Now, I get a lot of these in where the wood breaks here and here, where it's narrow, because there's a lot of pressure on the sides of the cabinet. So I just back out the 4 screws on the side about 1/8 of an inch. And that takes a lot of the pressure off. Now, right now I've got some adhesive, because they use a bunch of adhesive from the factory, and it wants to stick, and there it's stuck. Some of it came off on the panel, some of it's still on the chassis. That's no big deal. We'll worry about that later. That's because they put these things together before all the glue is dried. All right, so changing this bulb should be a no-brainer. If it's bad, it may just be loose. That bulb looks okay. Let's give it a power on, and let me check the heater stuff. This amp does have a heater fuse. It's hidden. It's back here where you can't really change the fuse unless you're a tech. And if you're a tech and you have to charge someone for your time, it's a lot of extra time to get to that damn thing. Let's see. You can access it from the top to measure it, but it's hard to... Measure's good. It's hard to physically change. Let's power this thing on, and I'll take a reading on the AC. All right, power it on. Do my bench supply on? I do. Okay. Let's see. Zoop, zoop, zoop. And zoop, zoop, zoop. 6.43. This bulb looks good to my eyes. Doesn't mean that it is good, but the filament looks like it's fine. I have to do this with the camera moved. As you can see, that bulb has lit, and it's not intermittent. Maybe it was a little bit loose, or maybe there's some issue causing the heater supply to come in and out. We will find out. None of the filter caps have any visible leakage. So let's set the tone stack flat on this thing. Presence flat on this thing. Not the quietest I've ever heard, but not too bad. All right, let's take a look at the low voltage heater supply stuff here. Same 5-watt 470 ohm resistors right up against the board as the previous versions. Same 5-watt Zener diodes up against the board as the previous versions. Same IC brand caps as the previous versions. So all the things that fail on the previous versions will fail on this version 4 as well. I'm not seeing any major differences, or really any differences at all at a casual glance from the previous versions. It just says 4 on the back, and it has the black panel versus the chrome. I do see one place where the heat's already causing some damage. Right here at R97, you see that browning there? So it's a 2-watt resistor. So I think it's a 1.2 K in this amp. Some models it's an 820, and that often scorches the board. This one has. The fix is to mount a new one physically off the board. I'll take a closer look at the 5-volt stuff, see if I see any damage to the board. The camera was kind of in my way before. Yeah, it's more apparent to the eye than to the camera, but there's some darkening right where those 5-watt resistors meet the board. And the reason I suspect this is going to be affecting the reverb issue is that this power supply in this reverb is used for the buffer, for the effects send return, and for the reverb. And the reverb driver for this amp is this little chip here. Let's take a DC measurement on that and see what we get at the rails. All right, so pin 4, at negative 16.72, pin 8, 16.92. So it has a supply, though I can hear a ticking buzzing in the area of those diodes there. And these caps aren't necessarily that happy. I'm not going to touch those because they do get warm, very warm indeed. I'm physically looking at the pins on the output sockets. All that's all right. There's a little bit of foam and stuff that used to be on the back of the panel. We'll brush that out. That's not going to be causing any issues though. All right, so let's get a guitar hooked up and see what the reverb does sound like. It says the reverb is crackles, reverb crackles. And that could just be as that op amp tries to actually do stuff with the signal given to it. I'm manipulating the tank and RCA cables and their connections. Cable. Very carefully manipulating the cable here. There's an ugliness to it. Let's go into the effects return, which will activate that other op amp using the same supply. Aha! Hear that? Yeah, this amp needs the whole low voltage supply set of components changed out. Well, for everyone who told me I was crazy for saying that the 4 was no different than the 3 or the 2 or the 1 as far as the problems, you stay in your lane. I got this. This is a cosmetic update to this amp, and nothing substantial has changed. And it has the same damn problems every other one has. Just out of curiosity, let me see what the bias is set at. It's actually a little bit cold. It's at 51 milliamp, as opposed to 60. And I'm going to tell the owner that as it does not add to my time, once I pull that board, I've pulled that board, and it's just another 8 soldered connections. Let me give them a recap as well. There's just the 4 caps in there. The new ones are not that expensive, and given that these things always fail, let's change them before they get a chance to do that and cause more damage. You can see a little bit of, where'd my pointer go? You can see a little bit of shadow around this zener. That's the beginning of the process. And by doing it before it gets totally baked, so this area is totally dark, we'll save the traces on this. So just like every other freaking hot rod that has ever come in, this stuff burns. This area burns, these caps leak, and that little resistor down there leaks as well. As far as the bulb, it may not have been seated properly, though I will check to make sure we don't have an intermittent connection or something else causing that. But this should be fairly standard. These things are the most popular amp sold for many years, and all of us techs rejoice because we know we're going to get 2 or 3 of these a month and make typically rent and car note off of them, if nothing else. They're the gift that keeps on giving, but I'm always a little bit jaundiced the other way towards the players side of things. So this kind of stuff actually pisses me off.